Hello guys. Okay, so I'm making a short video for you to watch just because you will have a third test coming up. There are no study guides, just the test materials. And I did get an email today of a worried student who will hopefully be watching this as well. Is where do we find the answers to the questions in PowerPoints? So I did this in a number of ways. These PowerPoints were originally made for face-to-face lectures. And so some of these questions I never took out, but when I lecture, so when I recorded these, maybe in the recording that I posted to Blackboard, I forgot to mention or failed to mention some of the things that are asked about on the slides, and I've kind of retained these slides. I update them maybe other year and a half. You can see sometimes data goes back to 2015, sometimes it goes to 2018, and it's time to update some of these. Nonetheless, let me just tell you the general layout of all in each of the PowerPoints. Sometimes questions are in the beginning and sometimes they're in the middle, sometimes they're at the end. If they're at the beginning, they're one of two things. One, I'm asking you questions about what we're going to be in the slides, just to kind of get you engaged in that way. Or it could be, if it's in the beginning, questions asking about the previous lecture. In all cases, they're just try to get you engaged in the PowerPoint. So it's not just slides you're reading and trying to figure out, but causing you to go back to the slides and look at them and think about them a little more. That's usually what it is. Some of them I've given answers or hints down here. I believe I'm sharing my screen. Yes, you should be able to see this PowerPoint. And or I give hints. And here I was just, in this PowerPoint, I remember I was just being a little playful. So I'm going to go through each of them and kind of either give an answer or really just show you where and how you can get an answer. But they all are a little involved, and they really are just aimed to get you working, I guess, and engaged with the material. So starting with the pest management, and we got some slides here, and it's not until about slide 18. So I just want to try and go through. This will be about hoping a 10-minute video. I forgot to start my timer. Which of the following is a primary pest and livestock systems? This one would be a quick, I say search up, right? This one, name one of the three sides of the disease triangle. A quick Google search will get you this. Here I say, look at this figure to figure out if it's true. Look into this figure to figure out whether this is true. Hey, Alexa, precautionary principle, what does that mean? So these are all highly Googleable things. They're things I did not talk about directly, but alluded to in lectures or are alluded to. And so just as an example here, I'll show you. I literally do pesticides cause genetic mutations that result in resistance. Copy paste that and boom. And you get an answer to some degree. I like this one right here is pesticide resistance and mutation. Insects are known for their ability to develop resistance to insecticides. All right, so meaning answers are not far. Let me get back to the PowerPoint here. Oh, wow, that was the wrong web page. All right, so which of the following is true? So when you go through these slides and you go back and you look at animals, I'll give you the answer to this one so you don't have to search up or feel like you're wasting a lot of time. But when it comes to animals, I talked just a little bit about cows or cattle, and that pest management is not just for crops, but animals too. And the short answer is yes, it's usually insects. It's usually insects, ticks, biggest one. So A is going to be, now I know ticks are not insects biologically speaking by classification, but generally insects are primary pests. There are pathogens, bad weeds they can eat. These are all things like before. So a quick Google search, name one of the three sides of the disease triangle. When you go for this one, let's see. Share my screen, new tab, disease triangle. Let's just say yes, search. In the disease triangle, pathogen, environment, society. What are the three sides of plant pathological paradigm revisited? And what is it? So you can find these answers pretty quickly. There is that disease triangle. Oh, look. host pathogen environment. You have to have a host that's accessible by the pathogen, the environment of that host, and internal or external, depending on the type of pathogen, has to be just right for the environment. And if that pathogen can find the right environment and the right host that meets the biological needs of that pathogen, well, then you have disease. So these are the three things that must be met, the equilateral plant disease triangle. All right, so there's the answer to that one. But just to say, in other words, you can feel free to Google some of these. I know it might feel like it takes time, but actually Googling is quicker, right? Sometimes in fishing through slides or rewinding a lecture and re-listening to me. Pesticide, oh, we already looked at this one. Oh, no, we didn't. Pesticides cause genetic mutations. So I showed you can copy paste that into Google, see what you find. Biologically, pesticides do not cause the mutations that result in resistance. Resistance arises, and hopefully I mentioned this in lecture, but resistance arises when just a few in the population happen to have genes or a version, a variant of the genes that allow them to survive the pesticide. In other words, pesticide didn't kill them, but you wiped out enough to have a healthy crop. But those few that were resistant will still live, and they'll reproduce, and in time, that population will grow. And in time, as you use that same pesticide, the same pesticide that didn't kill them will not kill them nor their offspring either, right? Because they had a resistance to it prior. The pesticide itself did not cause a mutation that resulted in resistance, okay? An organism already has that trait because of its genes, right? Precautionary principle provides general audience for the adoption of new technologies. True or false? This one, again, it's not far from a quick Google. So let's go through. Let's see if there's any others. All right. So let's, I want to try to have a nice combination of thorough and quick because you don't have enough. So EWG's Dirty 12 supported by FDA data. So one thing, like I said, there was notes on the bottom of some of these slides. This was in the last slide. So this is designed to get you to recall the previous lecture. So is this one? So is this one? This is all at the end of the last lecture. Now this one then, so 3 review slides, 1 is coming slide, but they're just intended to prime your pump, right, to get you thinking in these subject terms and to look for those answers. So here's the slide on that one, actually, environmental working group. So there's the clean 15, there's the dirty 12 of 2018. Whoops, typo. Look right here, detection above EPA tolerance in the FDA pesticide residue monitoring survey. So what's our answer to this one? Supported by FDA data? Yes, it was. All right, there's a list on the same slideshow, and we saw Tylenol had a 300 LD50, then, and glyphosate had, it was in the thousands. Wow, Tylenol has a lower lethal dose than glyphosate, but we're not wiping Tylenol off the shelves, are we? Well, just to give you an idea. So the answer would be true. That's coming from the slides, just a chart. Neonics are widely confirmed as a cause of bee deaths. Well, you listen to certain media and commonly thought yes, but as we discovered in that lecture, there is some contrasting data that says maybe false, it was not. Okay, genetic modification of plants began in the 1900s. Now this one could be tricky. If you clicked on the slide, and let's see, this one I actually don't hit until later on. Let's see. Oh, shoot, sorry. I don't remember. Anyway, there's a link in here to the paper. It's in one of these. Maybe it was in the back of that other. Anyway, long story short, on the genetic modifications. So modification has many definitions. We began talking about traditional plant breeding and domesticated versus wild. And if you're talking about general genetic modification of any sort, begin well before the 1900s. okay, going back to Europe and even pre-European times. We've long been modifying, genetically modifying organisms. I guess if we interpret this to be genetic modification as in genetic engineering and taking genes that were not in that plant or animal naturally and would not have been otherwise naturally, that is genetic engineering. And that started about the 1930s. So you just want to get a point of clarity there. Okay, let me swing through. Sorry, my computer usually has two screens. I'm on a small little laptop here because my sound doesn't work on the other. Phenotype is modified by the environment, true or false? Okay, so phenotype is a physical appearance or a biochemical ability for survival. Okay, it's a trait. Phenotype is a trait. So the environment, the trait is due to what? Genotype. If you've taken biology, you know that phenotype depends on genotype. You don't have a phenotype without a genotype. So is the phenotype modified by the environment? No. If anything is modified by the environment, if it's an environmental response, it's going to be a genotype that is modified by the environment over time. That will, the sun's rays, UV rays causing a mutation in a gene. Okay. Now, because of that mutation, you can't produce correct melatonin, and now there's skin cancer. Okay, you got a skin cancer spot. All right. So what was affected was the genotype. Then came the phenotype, the skin cancer, as a result of the modified genotype from the sunlight, which would be the environment. Okay. So this is false. Which of the following is not an example of genetic engineering? Okay, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these. So if they're in the slides, I'm going to tell you they're in the slides. This one is in the slides. Okay, this one you just got to go back up to the slides. There's a list of what is genetically modified, what consists of genetic engineering, what is not genetic engineering. It's slide 18 in this case. Okay, and there's the cutoff. Which of the following transgenic crops was adopted most rapidly? This is also in the slides. It's having to interpret the graphs here. So that's slide 26. Crops with BT modified, a lot of them. So those two are slides 18, 26, I think I just said. Citrus producers believe transgenic trees are the best option to overcome citrus greening. Oh, this is the link. So you have 3 slides on citrus greening. And you click on this, you can read a little excerpt. That'll also help to answer this question that was up here. All right. And 5, so just, you can always, these questions were meant for you to mentally do anyway, but as you prepare for an exam, and each of these may or may not be on the exam, probably most of them are, but not all of them are. A couple might have been amended for the exam. Okay, so producers believe, short answer. Well, what this study is showing is right here, transgenic, brought a protein in from spinach. That's what it says right in here. Texas A&M University down south where I'm located, well, was located. And here is the natural native tree. So definitely, and this so far has been the best. And that was in 2015. Best tactic for saving a citrus so far. There has not been any other way yet. So the answer is true. Okay. So yeah, you can just, again, a lot of these, I'm looking for the questions. Benefits to pest, most common trait associated with transgenic crops. Absolutely, yeah. They do breed for nutrition and whatnot, but most all of these have to do with pest. A lot goes into pest management. And if you can get plants and help plants to fight for themselves, I mean, no different than altering or trying to give a human their medication to alter those cancer cells, right? Or other arthritic cells. Well, we want to help the plant with medication in the way of gene therapy. Get there. So benefits related to pest management are the most common trait associated with transgenic crops. Yes. After that, it would come components of yield. In which developing nation? That one's up here as well in the slides. That one's right in here. Slide 42. First line, first field trial of the golden rice in Bangladesh, just south of Nepal, yielded promising results. All right. The USDA expects the number of approvals for transgenic animals to decrease in the future. That is up here also. What about animals? I'm going to pause it. Look for the answer. It's in there. 44. CRISPR-Cas9 works like a word editor for the genome. Hopefully I was clear on that in the lecture, but the miracle and the beauty of CRISPR is it's very precise and you go right to where you need to edit. That should be a hint on this one. Okay. All right. Well, I don't want to take up too much more time. I know I did not put too many other questions in here. Food waste, I don't think I put any questions in this one. And then there was food safety. The interesting thing, I didn't put too many here, but I'll tell you what. So as of this recording, where I'm helping to answer some of these, my wife is in her 3rd day of recovery from food poisoning over the weekend. Kicked in overnight, Saturday, all day Sunday, and most half of Monday, and today was finally the best. And you know what? It was salad related. And we always think of undercooked chicken or pork and those things. And for sure, you want to be safe always, right? And that's where you want to avoid it. But many more times, it's due to leafy greens, peanut butter. That was a big one. But lettuce, spinach, because these things we don't think about them needing to be cooked, but they're raw. We consume them raw. That's the way they're healthiest. But we typically only rinse them with water, and we think done, right? One and done. But soaking is better. There's other ways to avoid that. Usually it's safe. I've not suffered this too much. Not too many people have, but you will see in the data, the historical outbreaks that, yeah, salads probably are responsible for more food poisoning than meats in general. Okay, and outbreaks like that. So I'm going to wrap this up. Hope that helped. I answered a few questions and just gave you a perspective on how to address future questions that you might have on the PowerPoints. I know they're scattered, but again, I adapted this from face-to-face class for online. So it's the same PowerPoints, and I haven't lectured for all of them. And sometimes a review, sometimes it's directly in the slides, and sometimes it might be based on something I said or forgot to say. So, all right, I'm going to stop the recording here, and good luck. Email me if you have any other questions.